Hey guys, this is Hell Hades. This is going to be another Raid Shadow Legends video. Guys, we've got the official information on the Christmas Fusion, apart from when it's going to go live. Last year, as you can see from the graphic behind me, we did get a Merry Christmas bonus. Let's hope we get one again this year. But we've got the Fusible Legendary champion, which I'm going to go through in a minute. There's also going to be another new champion that's dropped at the same time, a Void Legendary. And then there's going to be two new epics which are part of the fusion. We've been told this is going to be an old school fusion, and looking at it, there's two new epics which are going to be part of the fusion, and I guess two old epics as well. We don't know the details yet of the old epics. So yay, we've got an old fusion. The champion looks pretty cool. We'll go into that in a minute, and yeah, let me know what you think. Okay, then on to new champions then that are just available, I guess, that are going to be in the game, like summonable champs. So Pyxniel, we've got an A1 here. Place a veil on a random ally for one turn. So attack one enemy, place the veil. Kind of cool. Can't place it on herself. Not a bad A1. A2, increase defense and continuous heal buff on all allies for 2 turns. Then attacks all enemies under freeze. Places weaken for 2 turns on all enemies under freeze. Okay, so firstly, like the places are weaker means there can't be a weak hits. Attacks all enemies under freeze, so I guess we're going to get freezing going on in a minute. Attacks 5 times at random. Each hit, 30% chance of placing a freeze, probably bookable to 50. 100% chance of placing a freeze if you hit someone twice. So you're hitting 5 times at random. If you're fighting a team of 4, you're going to freeze at least one of them, potentially 2. And then you kind of come back around for that A2 where you're going to do some damage as well. So this is a support champion. She might not hit hard. Saying that, Shiramani smacks. So we'll see. Passive then, whenever an enemy places a freeze on an ally, 20% chance of stealing the freeze and placing it on this champion. Okay. 25% chance of filling this champion's turn meter by 25% every time they receive a freeze. 35% chance of removing any freeze at the start of every turn. If there are multiple champions in the team with this skill, only one will activate. Okay, so I know that some of the Doom Tower bosses, or one of the Doom Tower bosses, is heavily focused on freeze. So she may well be of like an awesome answer to that boss. I'd imagine that's like 99% of what this champion's build style, play style will focus around, helping you beat that boss. So really interesting kit. In the current kind of meta, current game, doesn't have much of a place apart from like an anti-Tormund type setup or anti like Shiramani waves and stuff like that in Faction Wars. But in Doom Tower, this becomes way more relevant. So interesting. Yakal the Scourge. Legendary Void champion for Barbarians. Okay. Again, like the factions just blow me away. Like, it's not where we need them. But anyway, it doesn't matter. So Void champion, attack based. Attack 2 times. Each hit, chance to place a freeze. Ignore shield buffs if there are 1 or more enemies under freeze. Will also ignore block damage if there are 2 enemies under freeze. Will also ignore 30% defense if there are 3 enemies under freeze. Okay. So get a freeze person to go before him, or perhaps he's going to do all of that himself. A2 then, still a single target hit. Probably bookable to 100% chance of putting the slow on, decrease speed. And a freeze. Also steals 100% of that target's turn meter and places 30% increased speed on himself. It's kind of cool. It's you can't generally place freezes on bosses, so it tends to then be PvP, and a lot of single target champions just don't get airtime versus AoE champions. A3 then, attack 1 enemy 3 times. If the target's under freeze, removes the debuff after attacking and places it on all enemies. That's cool. Except the initial target. Will also attack all enemies except the initial target after the 3rd hit. So this does become an AoE hit if you're stealing the freeze, I think. Okay, that sounds pretty cool. It'd be interesting to see how hard this guy hits and how possible it is to get all of these effects off. We've got passive here as well. Decrease the damage this champion receives by 10% and increases the damage he inflicts by 10% if there's anyone under freeze. Increases his speed by 15 and resistance by 50 if there's 2 freezes. And there's an active on his passive, which has got a cooldown on it. Places unkillable buff on him for 2 turns if there's 3 enemies under freeze. Increase ally attack in Doom Tower. Okay, this answers a question. This answers a question at last. Is it anywhere else? Have I missed that? No. So the question was, will you be able to use dungeons as Doom Tower auras? This is the first Doom Tower aura I've seen. So they're not counting Doom Tower as a dungeon. Even though it sits in dungeons right now, it's going to have to be pulled out of there. They're going to be ripping it up because they're having their own aura for Doom Tower. Okay, Act the Wenderin. Force Demon Spawn. Attack one enemy, 30% chance of decreasing duration of a random buff if it's under an HP burn. 30% chance of decreasing turn meter if they're under a freeze. Okay. Places block debuffs on all allies for 1 turn. I always like this to be 2 turns because it's so easy for your team to run out of this in 1 turn. And strengthen as well, though. Strengthen's a great buff. That's not bad. A2. AoE ability on his A3. 70% chance of placing freeze. Probably books to like 85 or 100. For 1 turn on enemies who attack is higher than their defense. And HP burn on enemies whose defense is higher than their attack. Okay. Interesting A3. I'm not sure if I love it. It's an interesting A3. I mean, AoE kind of HP burn and freezes are great abilities anyway. They're great abilities to have. So for an epic, that's actually pretty strong. Heals all allies by 5% of their HP every time an enemy under an HP burn debuff gets a turn. That's kind of cool, actually. And fills turn meters by 10 if they're under a freeze. His kit's awesome, actually. His kit is awesome. It requires the A3 to get off. Once the A3 goes, then you've got healing mechanics. You've got turn meter mechanics. He's also bringing Strengthen, which is the best buff in the game. Pretty cool epic, I'd say. Drench. Obviously, these must be like the Christmas champions, I guess. The Grinch. Killjoy. Drunch Killjoy. Why are all the memes in Ogren tribes, guys? So we got A1, 40% chance of placing block buffs. A2, AoE, 50% chance of placing a bomb. Oh, fix bombs before you put more bomb champs in, please. Bombs are so rubbish. A3 removes all debuffs from all allies, then places heals for each one you stole. It's okay. Passive fills the turn meter of all allies by 10% whenever a bomb detonates. Okay, feels like a meme weak source champion to me. I don't love it, but maybe I'm wrong. So there we have it. We've got one very strong legendary, I would say, for the fusion, especially for Doom Tower, and 2 new fusible epics. One of which I think looks pretty cool. The other one I think basically looks pretty rubbish. Unless suddenly the bomb meta comes into its own, or unless you've got champions that can actually synergize the bomb meta. There's not that many champions with bomb at all anyway. So I guess adding another one into the mix might make things more interesting. But definitely feels like if you can't get the main fusible legendary, then the first Demon Spawn epic is a pretty cool one to get. But if you can get the legendary, I would definitely advise that you go for it. I think she'll be really helpful for Doom Tower and generally good support champion, interesting champion anyway. And it's also interesting there that we saw that point about there being an aura specifically for Doom Tower. It's the first time I've seen that on any champion in the game. So guys, let me know your thoughts below. I'm pleased that we've finally got the information coming through. I'm hoping that this fusion actually starts mid-December so that we can have Christmas. You know, we're not forced to play at Christmas. I think they kind of did that last year. But anyway, I've been Hell Hades. Hope you enjoyed the video. I'll catch you soon.